New Year's Day, the adoption of Russian children by US citizens will no longer be possible after President Putin signed the measure into law. It's a tit-for-tat response to America's sanctions against Russian officials, which it sees as human rights violators. Irina Galushka has more on this diplomatic spat.
You have to understand that the law, the so-called anti-Magnitsky law, actually deals primarily with imposing travel and financial restrictions on a number of American officials and persons who have committed crimes against Russian citizens. And only part of the law actually bans the adoption of Russian children by American citizens. It has been in part inspired by the case of Dima Yakovlev, a Russian toddler who was adopted by an American family in 2009 and died in their custody several months later after his father left him locked in the car in the blistering heat for 9 hours. The Russian lawmakers feel that the American law system does not provide adequate protection for the Russian kids and also does not punish those responsible for the deaths of Russian kids. For example, Dima Yakovlev's adoptive father, walked away with a fine. Aside from this new law, Russian lawmakers are also pledging to improve the lives of orphans and also improve foster care situation in Russia. This new particular law is seen as a response to the so-called Magnitsky Act, which was adopted in the United States just a couple of weeks ago. Which entails a list of Russian officials whom the United States believed to be involved in the case of Sergei Magnitsky, a Russian lawyer who was charged with tax evasion, put in preliminary confinement, and then died while in custody. Now, Sergei Magnitsky's family, friends, and several human rights organizations believe that charges against Magnitsky were trumped up and that he died in custody from severe beatings. These two acts are seen as the latest development in the ongoing tit-for-tat diplomatic battle, which seems to be going on despite the reset button pushed several years ago.
Irina Galushka. Russian studies and history professor Stephen Cohen from New York and Princeton University says he's never been under any illusions about Russia-US relations.
There's an old Russian saying, words are also deeds. A lot of people in Moscow and in Washington, when they passed the Magnitsky Act and now the ban on adoption in Moscow, may have thought they were just talking, showing off, playing, grandstanding politically, as we say in America. But these words have consequences. They abet, they fuel this new Cold War atmosphere, which is enveloping the relationship between our two countries. It's going to affect American relations with Russia regarding Afghanistan, regarding missile defense, regarding Syria, regarding Iran. These are very serious matters. Obama has continued the policy toward Moscow, begun by President Clinton, a Democrat, and continued by President Bush, a Republican. That policy is advancing NATO toward Russia's borders, building missile defense on Russia's borders, interfering in Russia's internal politics, most recently the street demonstrations. This is the same policy that began 20 years ago with the Soviet Union.